I've long known her, Julie. And no, she is not insulting me. Those last three remarks, those are on my website, actually. Might as well own it. Too many people here have seen me play hockey for me to lie about my hockey ability, so I'm not going to try. Thank you, senior class, for inviting me to speak at your graduation. I can only imagine after Bo Schembechler and CEOs and astronauts, you ran out of those guys, so here I am. But it's still an honor for me, I can tell you that. It's also an honor for me, given my respect for Saline High School and the town of Saline. I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, went to school there, of course. But I started coming here in my early 20s when I was covering high school football for the Ann Arbor News. And what impressed me greatly at your old high school is the entire town comes out for your games, not just those whose kids are playing that day on the team or the band, but everybody comes out. It's a community event, and it feels that way. And I felt that again, I was reminded of that when we were playing the national anthem, and very well done, both the orchestra and the choir. And I heard all of you up there singing the national anthem. You don't get that everywhere, so do not take that for granted. Also, you seniors, about friendship. Do not take your friendships here today lightly as well. I am here because of my friendship with Tim Helber, Julie's husband, of course, which goes back about a quarter century. Paul Helber, his father, of course, Julie, and that's why I'm here. The people you meet in high school, in junior high school, and grade school will always know you in a way that others will not. From now on, when you introduce yourself on an airplane or wherever you go, they're always going to ask you what you do and where you live. Those questions are irrelevant when you're at Saline High School. All right? You don't have a major yet. You don't have a job yet. You are who you are. And the friends you've made already appreciate you for who you are. Hang on to these friends. Trust me on that one. So with that, I'll get down to my actual real remarks, but I cannot resist those off-the-cuff observations. I'm here to talk to you about your future. I want to do that by talking first about the past, history. I was a history major at the University of Michigan. My roommates were business school and engineering majors like Owen Helber, I believe, is going to be shortly. And they did not know why I was a history major. Of course, you can get real jobs as an engineer or a business school graduate. If you're a history major, my friends all call that pre-unemployment. Actually, it's history and English, so it's double pre-unemployment, but don't ask. I got so tired of people asking me, what do you do with that history major? I finally made up a complete lie and said, I'm going to join one of those large history firms in New York. They don't exist. You'll find that out soon enough. Speaking of history, by the way, I'm finishing a book in the next 12 hours, and I regret that I cannot stay for the entire ceremony, but you seniors will appreciate the reason. I've got to complain. My 7th book is due at exactly 9 o'clock tomorrow morning by email out to St. Martin's Press in New York. If it's 9:01, I lose my September 1 launch date, and I will not graduate to my 8th book. So pardon me for that one. But back to history. When it's taught well, I loved history. When it's taught well, you learn that the life was not inevitable. Things, when it's taught poorly, your teachers tell you that all history is this great glacier that comes in, it changes everything, and it goes out, and you're helpless to make a difference in a world like that. And that is not true. That is flatly not true. I can prove it to you very quickly. You yourselves, sitting here today, were not inevitable. And I can tell you why. Your parents used to be single also. They had choices. Think about that. You cannot imagine your parents not meeting. They can. All right? They dated somebody else probably before they ended up marrying your mother or your father. So chew on that for a second. You yourselves are a genetic miracle to even be here, and to graduate from high school is a miracle on top of that. All right? How many mornings do you have to get up to make this happen? It was not inevitable. You had to go to class. You had to get up. You had to see through panic and self-doubt, and of course, what I'm going to do tonight, pulling all-nighters to get papers in. All right? That's what it took to get you here today. It was not inevitable. So, nothing was inevitable, and I wanted to be clear about that. Take U.S. history. It's often taught, again, unfortunately, but not here at Saline, I'm sure, but taught poorly in the sense that we learn what? If you've seen the movie Lincoln, about the team of rivals, you already know it was not inevitable that he could have freed the slaves in 1863. It's not inevitable that the Union Army was going to win. All right, but the way we're taught oftentimes is Lincoln frees the slaves, they win the war, things get better and better, Barack Obama. All right? It was not a clean ramp here, people. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's far more complicated than that. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. You're already graduates. You don't need to hear it from me. But I want to underscore something. That I interviewed George Will, the conservative columnist, now at Fox News, become a good friend of mine, endorsed one of my books. He told me that from 1865 to 1947, not only did things not get better for African Americans, they got worse, much worse. And all you AP history guys probably already know, I'm sure. I heard you guys lead the state in AP performance. Good job on that. All right, that in 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson made separate but equal legal in the United States. Separate but equal was legal. All right, then comes, of course, the Jim Crow laws, and then comes the KKK, which reached the height of popularity in the 1920s and 30s. It was so bad in the 1930s that the FBI had to break up the Indiana state government because the KKK ran the state of Indiana in the 1930s. So things were not getting better, they were getting worse. And they did not change until 1947. What happened in 1947? It was not a politician, it was not a businessman, it was a baseball player named Jackie Robinson. But for him to make it, to make that difference, he needed help, a lot of it. And I'm pleased to report the man who saw the vision for this was a man named Branch Rickey. He's a Michigan Law School graduate. From 1912, he graduated from law school in 2 years, not 3, while coaching the baseball team. This guy's an unusually brilliant man. He was a staunch conservative, deeply religious, who hated FDR, who hated the New Deal, who hated welfare. But he believed in two things fervently, and that was the Bible he grew up with and the Constitution he learned at the University of Michigan. And on both those fronts, they're unequivocal. The Bible says we are all God's children, and the Constitution says all men are created equal. There's no wiggle room in those words. And Branch Rickey, the staunch conservative, he's the man who decided to break the color barrier. So there were your stereotypes right there. He decided to pick somebody from the Negro Leagues in 1945 for this task. You'd think he'd pick the most talented player in the Negro Leagues and perhaps the most passive player to put up with all the stuff that's going to happen next. And he took the opposite. He took a player who at UCLA, Jackie Robinson was All-American in football and basketball and track. In baseball, in 12 games, he had 10 errors and hit .097, the worst player on the team. But after in World War II, as a captain of the military, he's also not a passive guy. All right, one day he's on the bus in his captain's uniform. In the front of the bus, and of course the bus driver tells him, "Son, you need to go to the back of the bus." And Jackie Robinson refused to go to the back of the bus 11 years before Rosa Parks did the same thing. Rosa Parks was a hero for this. Jackie Robinson was court-martialed. That's a strong, stubborn man. Branch Rickey, the staunch conservative who's going to break the color barrier, he decides that's the guy he wants. He wants a man who willed himself to learn the game of baseball from Buck O'Neill and the bus from the Kansas City Monarchs going all around the South. He wanted a man so strong, so tough, he's willing to get court-martialed for his beliefs, that he was as equal as anybody. That's the guy he picks. Jackie Robinson has no idea. In August of 1945, when Branch Rickey brings him in to 215 Montague Street in Brooklyn for a meeting, that he is calling him in to make him the first black player in the major leagues. So Jackie Robinson sits down in a chair in front of Branch Rickey's office, in front of his desk, and Rickey stands up and explains what he wants to do, that I want you to break the color barrier here in Brooklyn in 1947. Robinson is shocked. But then Rickey says, there's a big catch. For 3 years, you can't fight back. You can't talk back. You cannot say anything or do anything for all the stuff that's going to come your way, and it's going to be bad. I'm telling you that right now. He gets up, and he starts walking around Robinson's chair. And he says, you're going to go into restaurants where they say you can't eat here. You're going to go into hotels that say you can't stay here. When you're sitting on first base, the first baseman's going to call you every name in the book. And when you're up to bat, and back then all they wore was wool caps, no helmets. You're going to have guys throwing baseballs at your head because they don't like you. But they don't like you for one reason, the color of your skin. And right here, Robinson's getting agitated as he's saying all these things, and Rickey wants him to get agitated. Rickey finally circles around and puts his fist right in front of Robinson's face. And he says, when some guy wants to haul off and sock you in the mouth, what are you going to do? Robinson is sweaty by now, and he looks up, and he says, Mr. Rickey, I'm looking for a man who lacks the courage to fight back. And Mr. Rickey says, Mr. Robinson, I'm looking for the one man with the courage not to. On that moment, your lives changed. America changed, the world changed. 2 men, 1 room, 1 moment. What happens next? Robinson in 1947 breaks the color barrier. The next year, the military is desegregated. After that, the schools are. Then comes Rosa Parks, then comes Martin Luther King, then comes civil rights, then comes Barack Obama. Okay? That's how the actual chain of events really happened. Barack Obama has said, and I'm not getting into politics here obviously, but he said there's no way I could be here were it not for what Martin Luther King did first. And Martin Luther King said, and I quote, I could never have done what I did if Robinson had not done it first. And Robinson said, I would not be here without Branch Rickey. Moments matter. Individual matter. Do not tell me that life is the same without those 2 men, those 1 moment. Do not tell me, by the way, that those individuals don't exist in the future, will not exist. Don't tell me those moments will not happen to you in the future. Don't tell me the future's already been written, because you are going to be the ones who write the future. You are the individuals the world needs next. The moments are in front of you. The future truly is yours. Grab it. Thank you.